While I was wasting time playing games, a strange mechanical voice suddenly echoed inside my head. Congratulations, you have successfully bound to the 24-hour godly tycoon system. From now on, any money you spend will be returned to you 10 times over. After 24 hours, the system will automatically disappear. The moment the voice ended, a countdown timer appeared in my mind, and my brain instantly started racing. 10 times cashback? I only had 2,000 yuan left in my account, but if this was real, then every second mattered. Without hesitating, I immediately recharged 2,000 yuan into my game account. The next second, my phone vibrated with a bank notification. Your commercial bank account has received a transfer of 20,000 yuan. Current balance? 20,024 yuan. It actually worked. My heartbeat instantly sped up, and excitement flooded through my entire body. Making money suddenly became unbelievably simple. Without wasting another second, I transferred 20,000 yuan directly to my friend Ling Zayan. Almost instantly, the system returned 200,000 yuan to me. A question mark quickly popped up from Ling Zayan, but I completely ignored him. Right after that, I sent him another 200,000 yuan, and the system immediately refunded me 2 million. The next second, my phone rang loudly. Ling Zayan called me in shock and shouted, "What the hell is going on? Why did you suddenly send me 220,000 yuan? What did you do? Where did you get so much money?" I calmly replied, "Don't worry about it. Didn't I borrow 10,000 from you before? I'm just paying you back. I'm busy right now. I'll explain later." He almost screamed, "Who the hell repays 10,000 with 220,000? Loan sharks aren't even this insane. What exactly are you doing?" I didn't even slow down as my fingers moved crazily across the screen. Honestly, I also wanted to spend huge amounts of money immediately to get even bigger returns. But as an ordinary person, I simply didn't have enough channels for large spending. I had to build my capital first before making my next move. Then I suddenly remembered something and quickly said, "By the way, don't you still owe over 100,000 in online loans? Hurry and pay them off." He was stunned for a second before replying, "All right, I'll go repay them now. When you're free, call me back." Then he hung up. In less than 3 minutes, I had completely paid off every online loan and credit card debt I had. I spent 2 million in total, and the system instantly refunded me 20 million. Then I used another 30 million, and the system returned 300 million. At that moment, my bank account balance had already reached 4.7 million yuan. Other than Ling Zayan, all my other so-called friends were basically useless freeloaders, not worth helping at all. Looking around, there was nothing left nearby worth spending money on, so I immediately decided to head somewhere made for high-end consumption. I rushed downstairs at the fastest speed of my life and stopped a taxi. The moment I got in, I said, "Driver, take me to the Ferrari dealership on Jiangxi Road." After all, if rich people wanted to spend money quickly, the fastest way was obviously buying houses and luxury cars. While sitting in the taxi, I quickly downloaded several live streaming apps. I didn't even bother watching the streamers. I entered the first platform and instantly recharged 4 million yuan. The system immediately refunded me 40 million. Without hesitation, I recharged another 6 million, and another 60 million instantly appeared in my account. At that point, my bank balance had already climbed to 94 million yuan. Of course, I didn't dare spend too much money on one platform in case it attracted unwanted attention, so I spread another 10 million across several other live streaming apps and successfully triggered more cashback. Then I leaned forward and told the taxi driver, "I'm in a hurry. Get me there as fast as possible, and I'll tip you 5,000. The driver instantly became excited and laughed loudly. "You've found the right person today. Let me show you what a real Akina mountain driving god looks like." The next second, the taxi shot forward like a rocket. I casually transferred him 5,000 yuan, and the system instantly refunded me 50,000. In less than half an hour, I had already spent and cycled nearly 300 million yuan. For ordinary people, 300 million was enough to retire forever. But strangely, I still wasn't satisfied. Honestly, even I didn't know what my goal had become anymore. About 20 minutes later, we finally arrived at the Ferrari dealership. The moment I walked inside, a saleswoman immediately greeted me politely. "Hello, sir. Welcome to Ferrari Sales Center. Do you already have a model in mind?" I shook my head and calmly replied, "No, but you can briefly introduce the cars here. I'll buy immediately." She looked me up and down. My entire outfit probably didn't even cost more than 1,000 yuan. Still, she forced a smile and pointed toward a nearby car. "Sir, you can take a look at this one. This is the Ferrari 612. The current price is 5.7 million yuan. I waved my hand impatiently and said, "No need for introductions. I'll take this one." Swipe the card. Then find me a few more cars too. I want all of them. The saleswoman froze completely. Looking at my ordinary appearance, she probably felt like unimaginable fortune had suddenly fallen right into her lap. Then I continued, do you have Ferrari 812, Ferrari F12, Ferrari 599, Ferrari 488, Ferrari F90, Ferrari 458, and Ferrari FF? She hurriedly replied, sir, we may not have every model in stock right now. Some may need to be transferred from other locations. I nodded casually and said, the models I just listed plus this 612 makes 8 cars total. I don't need to look at options. Just give me the highest configurations for all of them. Main colors, red and black. Give me the total price quickly because I'm in a hurry. The saleswoman immediately grabbed a calculator and started typing frantically. The listed car prices alone are one thing, but including insurance, tax, and additional configurations, the total for all vehicles will be 53 million yuan. I glanced at my balance and calmly said, too troublesome to buy one by one. Make it 5 complete sets. The saleswoman was completely dumbfounded. It wasn't that she had never seen rich people buy Ferraris before, but someone treating luxury supercars like cabbages at a grocery market was absolutely terrifying. Then I suddenly asked, do you have LaFerrari? She looked disappointed and replied, sir, LaFerrari is a limited edition model. It has already been sold out globally. I felt a little regretful hearing that. Looks like I wouldn't be able to get one after all. Then I simply handed over my card. Normally, ordinary bank cards had spending limits, but under the power of the system, even the rules of this world felt completely meaningless. As soon as the payment notification rang out successfully, the saleswoman's eyes toward me changed entirely. Ferrari dealerships didn't get many customers daily, so all the idle saleswomen nearby instantly gathered around me, each one trying desperately to get closer to this mysterious, rich second-generation heir. In their eyes, even my cheap clothes had suddenly become a symbol of low-key luxury. The moment over 200 million yuan was successfully spent, the system instantly refunded me 2.67 billion yuan. Adding the remaining balance from before, I now had nearly 2.7 billion yuan in cash sitting quietly inside my account, too. I had just ordered a total of 40 luxury cars, and every single salesperson surrounded me like I was some kind of living god. Even the store manager personally came over to pour tea for me, bowing and smiling so humbly that it felt like he was afraid even breathing too loudly might offend me. One of the saleswomen carefully reminded me, Mr. Gu, I need to let you know that delivering all these vehicles will probably take around 6 months. I casually waved my hand and replied, that's fine, just deliver them one by one whenever they arrive. The moment she heard that, she visibly relaxed. After all, with an order worth more than 200 million yuan, she probably didn't even dare imagine how insane her commission would be. Looking at me now, I could practically see the thoughts running through her mind. Even becoming my mistress and receiving random pocket money from me would probably be enough to change her entire life forever. If this had happened before today, maybe I would have enjoyed chatting with all these beautiful women a little longer. But right now, I only had 24 hours. More than an hour had already passed, and I didn't have time to waste on anything else. At this stage, even the most beautiful women in the world had to step aside for my money printing mission. Just then, my phone suddenly rang. Hello, is this Mr. Gu? Yes, who is this? Hello, Mr. Gu, I am Qin Yunshan, the president of Commercial Bank. We noticed a recent overseas transfer on your primary account worth 2.6 billion yuan. Since your deposits with our bank are extremely significant, we would like to officially invite you to become one of our highest-level VIP clients and provide you with many exclusive services and conveniences. Even though my phone wasn't on speaker, the entire showroom clearly heard every single word. From the manager to the saleswomen, everyone froze in complete shock. Especially the woman who had introduced the Ferrari earlier. She had already thought spending over 200 million was terrifying, but hearing 2.6 billion yuan completely shattered her understanding of reality. But honestly, I didn't care much about the VIP status itself. What truly interested me was the power behind a bank president. I immediately said, President Qin, let's talk about the VIP matter later. Right now, I actually need a favor. He instantly replied respectfully, Mr. Gu, please feel free to ask. I calmly said, I want to buy properties, luxury flats, penthouses, villas. The more high-end, the better. Do you happen to have connections in real estate? Right now? He asked carefully. Yes, immediately. As long as the properties are suitable, I can pay on the spot. President Qin immediately responded. Please give me a few minutes, Mr. Gu. I'll contact some people right away. After hanging up, the atmosphere around me completely changed. None of the saleswomen even dared breathe loudly anymore. If I only had a few 100 million, they might still fantasize about marrying into wealth. But now that they heard I had tens of billions, and that this was likely only the beginning, I had already become someone far beyond their reach. I then asked casually, "Are there any cars here I can drive away today?" One salesperson hurriedly answered, "Mr. Gu, all your vehicles include premium customization packages, so the fastest delivery would be around 3 this afternoon." I nodded. "Fine. Whichever car is ready first, call me immediately. Fill the fuel tanks too. As for the license plates, normal ones are fine. I still have other things to do." Then, under the enthusiastic escort of the manager and countless saleswomen, I finally left the dealership. The moment I walked outside, President Chin called again. "Mr. Gu, I've already contacted several people. Many are willing to sell their properties. Where would you like to meet?" I glanced at the time. It was already noon. "Arrange the meeting at your bank. If possible, I want everyone there by 3 this afternoon." President Chin immediately said respectfully, "It would be our honor to serve a distinguished guest like you. I'll arrange everything immediately." Before hanging up, I suddenly remembered something else and added, "By the way, President Chin, do you know any private yacht manufacturers or private jet sellers?" He immediately replied confidently, "Please don't worry, Mr. Gu. Commercial Bank provides top-tier services for elite clients. Whatever you need, we can arrange." I smiled slightly. "Good. Then help me arrange meetings for those as well this afternoon." Even though the appointments were set for later, I still had several hours left, which meant there was only one thing to do: continue spending money. Thankfully, this street was filled with luxury car dealerships. Less than 500 meters later, I walked into a Porsche dealership. Before I could even speak, the manager personally rushed over with an entire group of salespeople. "Hello, Mr. Gu. I'm Su Wan Kin, the manager here. Welcome to Porsche." I quickly realized what had happened. During the 2 minutes I spent outside taking the phone call, the Ferrari salespeople had already spread the news across the entire luxury car district. Every dealership now knew a terrifyingly wealthy man had arrived, and casually spent nearly 300 million yuan buying 7 Ferrari models with 5 units each. Nobody could even understand my purchasing logic anymore. What kind of rich person bought cars like this? I calmly asked, "Do you have all Porsche models?" The manager hurriedly answered, "Yes, Mr. Gu. We can arrange any Porsche model for you, though some may require transfer orders." I nodded immediately. "Good. Arrange all available customization packages. Use the best color combinations and highest configurations. Don't ask me for details, just choose whatever is most suitable." The manager nearly trembled from excitement. After a long series of calculations, she finally reported, "Mr. Gu, including all premium configurations, the total comes to 50 million yuan. This includes 2 Porsche 918 models of different versions, 1 Porsche 911, and 1 Cayenne GT. I didn't even blink before pulling out my bank card again. In less than an hour, surrounded by another group of completely stunned employees, I walked out of the Porsche dealership. 200 meters later, I entered Lamborghini. The exact same scene repeated itself again. In the end, I selected the Lamborghini Reventon, Lamborghini Aventador, and Lamborghini Veneno Roadster. The total price after full configuration came close to 40 million yuan, and once again, I ordered 5 sets. Another 200 million instantly disappeared from my account. My balance briefly dropped from 4.9 billion to 4.7 billion, but the system immediately refunded me over 2.1 billion yuan, pushing my total assets to 6.72 billion. Just like before, I signed the contracts and left without wasting another second. My next stop was Maserati. I chose the Maserati Gran Turismo, Maserati MC20, Maserati Quattro Porc, Maserati Coupe, and Maserati Gran Cabrio. The fully configured total came to over 15 million yuan. And once again, I made my move without hesitation. I directly ordered 5 sets again, bringing the total to 75 million yuan. The system instantly refunded me another 750 million, and just like that, my total assets had already climbed to 7.4 billion yuan. By the time it was almost 3 in the afternoon, I finally arrived at Commercial Bank. The moment I stepped out of the car, a middle-aged man in his 40s quickly walked toward me with a respectful smile. "Mr. Gu, welcome. I'm Qin Yuanshan, the president of Commercial Bank." I nodded lightly and said, "President Qin, you're too polite." Then the two of us walked inside together. As we entered the bank, he suddenly noticed the half-eaten hamburger still in my hand and awkwardly smiled. "Mr. Gu, perhaps we should eat first." I shook my head immediately. No need. I'm short on time." He hurriedly replied, "Then how about this? I'll have someone immediately buy you a simple meal nearby." I casually nodded. "Fine. Anything simple is okay. Not troublesome at all. Not troublesome at all," he said repeatedly as he personally guided me deeper into the bank. Since I had arranged appointments with many people, several guests were already waiting inside the VIP conference room. President Qin personally poured tea for me before introducing everyone. After a simple round of greetings, I looked around the room and calmly said, "Sorry everyone for inviting you all here in such a rushed manner. I'm in a hurry, so I decided to handle everything at once. But I believe all of you will be very satisfied with our upcoming conversation. Everyone present was an experienced businessman, so naturally nobody got angry over such things. Besides, before arriving, President Chin had already informed them that I was an extremely terrifying cash buyer. I got straight to the point. Let's begin with the properties. Several people immediately handed over thick stacks of prepared documents. There were more than 30 luxury flats and villas in total. I flipped through everything very quickly. Honestly, I only cared about the environment and the prices. Every project here was one of the most famous luxury developments in the city, and the prices were far beyond what ordinary people could ever afford. Even the cheapest flat cost over 200,000 yuan per square meter, and the smallest unit was over 230 square meters. I spent almost an hour reviewing everything before finally looking up. By then, a boxed meal with rice and vegetables had already been quietly placed beside me. I put down the documents and asked calmly, "If I buy your properties, what additional benefits can you offer?" The representatives exchanged glances before each explaining their own benefits. Most offered 3 years of waived property management fees, utilities, heating fees, free parking spaces, and 10 full house cleaning services over 3 years. I roughly calculated the numbers in my head. The cheapest luxury flat was worth 46 million yuan, while the most expensive villa actually cost 800 million yuan. In total, there were 32 properties, 25 luxury flats, and 7 villas, with a combined price of 4.3 billion yuan. With over 7.4 billion sitting in my account, I naturally wasn't afraid. In fact, I was excited because this single transaction would return over 43 billion yuan through the system. Of course, because the amount was so massive, the cashback would arrive in batches. Since everything had been arranged in a hurry, the sellers only brought property documents. None of them expected a deal to actually close today. After all, who could have imagined someone like me would buy billions worth of properties simply by looking at pictures? Fortunately, one phone call later, people rushed over to deliver the contracts immediately. While waiting, I turned toward 3 yacht company representatives sitting nearby. "Gentlemen, let me see your materials too." The 3 quickly handed over their documents respectfully with both hands. After flipping through them, I nodded. "I like all 3 yachts currently available. I'll take all of them. Also, I want to custom build one more." One of the representatives instantly smiled confidently. "Mr. Gu, there's nothing we can't build." I nodded in satisfaction before quickly listing my requirements. Half an hour later, after discussing everything in detail, I finally said, "My requirements are difficult. The 3 of you can compete and see who's capable of taking this order." Around the same time, the property contracts finally arrived, and I immediately began signing everything while giving the yacht companies time to discuss among themselves. At the same time, I also accepted materials from several private jet companies. After reviewing them, I frowned slightly. To be honest, I wasn't fully satisfied, but there was no helping it. Private jets were extremely expensive, and almost nobody kept ready-made stock. Everything required advanced customization. So I once again started listing my personal requirements, while the representatives rapidly contacted their manufacturers behind the scenes. My demands for the private jet were equally extreme. As I spoke, everyone quickly took notes and relayed information to their companies. Meanwhile, President Chin sat nearby looking completely dazed. As a bank president, he considered himself someone who had seen countless wealthy clients before, but today he truly felt like his worldview had been shattered. Ordinary people still asked about prices when buying vegetables at the market, yet I was signing billion yuan deals as casually as if I were buying cabbages. Soon after, the yacht companies finally reached a conclusion. One of them officially accepted my custom yacht project. The yacht I requested would cost a total of 2.5 billion yuan. Even on a global scale, it would belong among the most luxurious super yachts in existence. Without hesitation, I transferred the entire 2.5 billion immediately. Then I purchased the 3 ready-made yachts I had selected earlier for another 400 million yuan. I signed the contracts and swiped my card without even blinking. My balance temporarily dropped to 7.22 billion, but for the yacht manufacturer, this project itself was already an unbelievable challenge. The yacht I requested was gigantic and equipped with world-class luxury configurations. Even internationally, only the top-tier companies had the capability to build something like this. In industries like theirs, it was common to go years without major orders, but once a huge order arrived, it could sustain them for several years. And with this single 2.5 billion transaction, the system instantly refunded me 25 billion yuan. My liquid assets had already become unimaginably terrifying. After dealing with the properties and yachts, the final major task was the private jet. After discussions between several aviation companies, Eastern Airlines ultimately accepted my order. My customization requirements were incredibly complex and high-end, and the complete build would require at least a year and a half before delivery. Normally, such aircraft took 3 or 4 years to complete while maintaining quality standards. But I didn't care about waiting. What I cared about was spending huge amounts of money. According to the standards of a top-level international luxury private jet, the final customized price reached 3.5 billion yuan. The moment I finished signing and paying, my total assets finally broke through the 100 billion mark. Altogether, I now possessed over 103.7 billion yuan. By the time everyone finally left, it was already after 7 in the evening. I rubbed my aching forehead and let out a long breath. Honestly, continuously spending money since 10 in the morning was genuinely exhausting, especially the negotiations, decisions, and endless signing during the afternoon. Seeing my tired expression, President Chin smiled respectfully and said, "Mr. Gu, you look exhausted. How about giving me the honor of treating you to dinner so you can relax a little?" I nodded lightly and said, "All right then, let's go." Qin Yuanshan kept his posture extremely humble the entire time. Even though he was a bank president, he was only a regional branch president after all, and compared to the wealth I now controlled, even he clearly understood the gap between us. While we were walking, I suddenly said, "President Chin, where's the restroom? I want to wash my hands." He immediately personally guided me there. The moment I entered the restroom, I noticed him quickly pulling out his phone outside and secretly making a call. When I came back out, he instantly smiled respectfully again. "Mr. Gu, shall we go?" Under his lead, the two of us soon arrived at a private restaurant. After sitting down, I looked at him seriously and asked, "President Chin, what industries spend money the fastest?" He paused slightly before answering, "If we're talking about high spending, then luxury watches, collectible art, and top-tier jewelry are all very expensive categories." I shook my head slightly. "Anything else?" After thinking for a moment, he added, "If it's purely about spending money quickly, then investments are probably the fastest." The moment I heard that, my eyes lit up. "In that case, are there currently any companies worth investing in? I'd like to take a look. If there's potential, maybe I can support them." Qin Yuanshan immediately smiled. "Mr. Gu, there are far too many companies seeking investment across the country. Film and television, entertainment, internet media, healthcare, pharmaceuticals, education, training. Every industry has countless companies looking for funding." I calmly nodded. "Good. Then help me look into companies in film entertainment, online media, medicine, healthcare, and education training. Of course, they can't be completely worthless either. Otherwise, what if they don't even have enough scale for me to invest large amounts?" Naturally, I said that on purpose. For me, it didn't matter whether the company succeeded or failed. As long as I spent money, the system would refund me 10 times over. Qin Yuanshan immediately nodded seriously. "Don't worry, Mr. Gu. Once dinner is over, I'll contact people immediately." Just like that, the two of us quickly reached another agreement. Then I suddenly remembered something else. "Oh, right, I also want to buy an entire commercial skyscraper. Does anyone around here have intentions to sell?" Even Qin Yuanshan was slightly stunned hearing that. "Mr. Gu, buying a commercial skyscraper is no small matter. The price would be extremely high. If you really want one, I'll need to carefully contact people. And honestly, not many would be willing to sell." Suddenly, his eyes lit up as if he remembered something. "Wait, if it's a newly completed building that hasn't officially started operations yet, would that work?" I immediately nodded. "That's fine, I can handle renovations and modifications myself." Hearing that, Qin Yuanshan quickly said, "In that case, I actually know of one. A few years ago, a company borrowed heavily from our bank to build a twin-tower skyscraper project. The two towers are connected together with a very complicated design. It includes commercial areas, offices, hotels, apartments, and multiple mixed-use sections. The project was only completed last month, and I heard they're still renovating the interiors. I'm just not sure about the exact situation." I immediately interrupted him. "I don't care about the details. I want to buy it outright. President Qin, ask them. If it's suitable, I can purchase it immediately." Qin Yuanshan nodded and instantly made a call. "Chairman Liu, hello. Calling this late is something important?" The other side laughed helplessly. "Old Qin, are you calling about the loan repayment? Don't worry. Once the building officially opens, the rental income will allow us to repay everything." Qin Yuanshan quickly replied, No, that's not what I mean. I actually wanted to ask if you have any intention of selling the towers." "Selling?" The voice on the other end clearly became cautious. Qin Yuanshan continued, "I currently have a very powerful client here. I originally wanted to introduce the project to him, but if you're not interested in selling, then forget it." The moment he heard powerful client, Chairman Liu immediately changed his tone. Wait, how powerful exactly?" Qin Yuanshan calmly replied, "I can't reveal too much, but I can tell you this. He can buy both towers outright in cash." Chairman Liu instantly fell silent. If he could recover funds immediately, then selling might actually solve many of his current problems. After a moment, he said carefully, "How about this, old Qin? Let me discuss it with the others tomorrow." But Qin Yuanshan glanced at me and immediately replied, "The client specifically said that if you can discuss it tonight, then he can finalize everything before 10 tomorrow morning. But if it's after 10, he'll simply look elsewhere." Chairman Liu was stunned. "Old Qin, are you kidding me? Who buys skyscrapers like this? One night to decide? Stop joking around." Qin Yuanshan calmly replied, I can only tell you one thing. This client spent nearly 11 billion yuan in cash just today. The moment Chairman Lu heard that, his breathing clearly changed. Forget everything else. Anyone capable of casually spending over 10 billion yuan cash absolutely possessed terrifying financial strength. There was no need for someone like that to play games with him. But still, he couldn't understand why the other side was in such a hurry. Buying buildings normally involved endless inspections, negotiations, evaluations, and legal reviews. Yet this mysterious buyer completely ignored normal business logic. In the end, Chairman Lu finally sighed helplessly. Fine, give me 1 hour. I'll call you back. After the call ended, I rubbed my forehead lightly and suddenly remembered another thing. Oh, right, President Qin. Don't forget the investment companies too. He immediately nodded. I'll send out a group message and see which companies are currently seeking investment. At this point, my wealth had already exceeded 100 billion yuan. There was no way I would let that money sit idle. Even if the system stopped tomorrow, investments themselves were still worthwhile. Maybe some of them would become incredibly profitable in the future anyway. The moment Qin Yuanshan sent the message, his phone started exploding almost instantly. Less than 10 seconds later, someone already called him. President Qin, is the information you just posted real? Qin Yuanshan calmly replied, I can confirm it's absolutely real. And the client is currently sitting right beside me. The other side immediately became excited. Then tomorrow morning, I'd like to personally visit and discuss cooperation. Qin Yuanshan glanced at me, and after seeing my slight nod, he said, tomorrow morning at 8. Bring your company documents and contracts to the bank conference room. Thank you, President Qin. Thank you. The calls continued non-stop afterward. In less than an hour, Qin Yuanshan answered at least 20 calls, all from people seeking investments or partnerships. Many others couldn't even get through and could only spam him with messages instead. About an hour later, Chairman Lu finally called back. President Qin, after discussing with everyone, we're willing to sell the towers, but there are already signed agreements with some tenants, so those issues would need to be resolved by your client. I casually gestured that it wasn't a problem at all. Qin Yuanshan immediately replied, no problem. Tomorrow morning at 7, bring all documents and contracts to the bank conference room. After exchanging a few more polite words, the call finally ended. Looking at the countless unread messages flooding his phone, Qin Yuanshan could only smile bitterly before asking me carefully, Mr. Gu, there are too many people. Which ones should I confirm? I calmly leaned back and replied, tell them this. Anyone free tonight can come meet me tonight. Those who can't make it tonight must arrive before 9 tomorrow morning. After 9, there's no need to come anymore, because after 10, I'll have other matters to handle and won't have time to look at anything else. Even though he was extremely curious about what I planned to do after 10, Qin Yuanshan wisely didn't ask. He simply lowered his head and quietly began replying to everyone. Seeing how late it was getting, Qin Yuanshan suddenly suggested, Mr. Gu, how about we change locations? Soon after, he personally brought me to the entrance of a private clubhouse. Mr. Gu, this is a private club owned by one of our clients. Inside, there are entertainment areas, lounges, massages, and quiet private rooms. It's also convenient for discussing business later. Under his lead, I arrived at room 66. The moment we entered, everyone inside immediately stood up. Qin Yuanshan smiled and introduced me. Gentlemen, this is Mr. Gu, tonight's god of wealth. Even though I was still young, in their eyes I was practically a walking Kai Shen Ye. Honestly, I didn't fully understand every industry, but I could still clearly see the future of certain sectors. Fields like healthcare and education would never truly disappear no matter how society changed. In the end, I invested in dozens of companies and corporate groups, spending nearly 30 billion yuan in total. Naturally, the system instantly returned 300 billion yuan to me. The meetings continued non-stop until 3 or 4 in the morning before all the representatives finally left. Only then did I finally get a chance to rest for a while. But I hadn't slept long before Qin Yuanshan woke me up again. Mr. Gu, it's time to head to the bank. Several representatives are already waiting. With dark circles under my eyes, I followed him back to Commercial Bank. Chairman Lu had already arrived with his secretary and an enormous stack of documents. I casually took the files and only looked at the key sections. Since I planned to make this place my future headquarters, there was no way I would allow rental contracts or outside tenants to remain. In the end, I bought the twin skyscrapers for 30 billion yuan. The system instantly refunded me 300 billion again. On top of that, I invested another 20 billion yuan across various other companies represented there. By 9:50 in the morning, I had finally signed every single contract. Then I found an excuse to head toward the restroom. A few minutes later, the familiar system voice echoed inside my mind one last time. 24 hours have ended. The system will now automatically unbind. Thank you for your usage. Have a pleasant life. I already knew this moment would eventually come. No miracle lasted forever. So I quietly smiled and said in my heart, then have a safe journey. The next second, the system's presence slowly faded away like smoke disappearing into the air. I let out a long breath, adjusted my emotions, and calmly returned to the conference room. In these 24 hours, with the help of the system, I had accumulated over 823.7 billion yuan in liquid cash assets alone. And that didn't even include the fixed assets. I still owned dozens of villas and luxury flats, over 100 luxury supercars, private jets, private yachts, investments in nearly 100 companies, and those 2 massive skyscrapers. Even if one day I somehow lost everything and fell into ruin, simply selling these assets would still leave me with hundreds of billions. As the meetings finally concluded, I stood up and smiled lightly. Thank you for your hard work, President Qin. Since everything here is finished, I still have other matters to handle, so I'll leave first. Qin Yuanshan immediately replied respectfully, Of course, Mr. Gu. Someone as busy as you naturally has many important matters. I'll escort you out. After leaving the bank, I finally returned to my old rented apartment to pack my things. Honestly, there wasn't much worth packing anyway. I casually called my landlord. Uncle Liu, I'm planning to move out. The old landlord immediately sighed. Xiaogu, are things difficult lately? Don't worry about the rent for now. Just stay there first and pay later after you get your salary. Renting outside is even more expensive these days. Hearing that made me smile a little. No, Uncle Liu, I already bought a house, so I won't need to rent anymore. He instantly laughed loudly. You brat, looks like you really got rich. I replied, I'll pack my stuff and leave it near your door later. I'll transfer the remaining rent afterward. All right, thanks, Xiaogu. After finally handling all that, I remembered Ling Ziyan and called him back. The moment he answered, he immediately shouted, Damn it! What the hell is going on with you? I waited all day for your call. I laughed lightly. I just finished being busy. Sounds like you're in a pretty good mood. Of course I'm in a good mood. My debts are almost gone. But seriously, what the hell did you do and why did you transfer me so much money? I casually asked. Did you finish paying off your debts? Yeah, I had around 200,000 yuan total. Now there's only 20,000 left. Good enough. He immediately continued. No, seriously, tell me what happened. I still need to pay you back that 200,000. I shook my head. No rush. Pay it whenever you have money, or don't pay it at all. It's not a big deal. Then I casually made up an excuse. A few years ago, I bought some Bitcoin. Recently, I sold it, so I suddenly got rich. Damn, so you really made it big. He laughed helplessly before saying, All right then, work hard and live properly from now on. I smiled lightly. Same to you. We both need to live well. Stop acting emotional, idiot. I'm going back to work now. Get lost. The two of us laughed before hanging up. After that, I drove toward the office building where I used to work. Back then, I was just an ordinary office worker struggling through life every day. But now everything had changed completely. Naturally, the first thing I planned to do was resign. I directly found my supervisor, Manager Lee. Manager Lee, I'm resigning. He looked surprised. What happened? You didn't even come to work this morning. Did something happen? I calmly replied, nothing major. I bought some Bitcoin before, sold it recently, and made some money. So I've decided to quit. There wasn't any dramatic conflict between us, so Manager Lee agreed very straightforwardly. Afterward, I said goodbye to my coworkers, submitted my resignation letter, and calmly walked out of the company. Meanwhile, upstairs, some coworkers were still gossiping excitedly. Guys, do you know what I just saw downstairs? Gu Beicheng drove away in a Ferrari. Completely ignoring their shock, I simply drove away peacefully. Since I finally had money, I decided I would truly start enjoying life from now on. The first thing to do was obviously change my appearance completely. But when it came to high-end luxury brands, I honestly didn't understand much. I had even heard some stores required asset verification before allowing purchases, which sounded incredibly troublesome. But that no longer mattered. Rich people solved problems by hiring professionals. And in my case, the easiest solution was obviously the bank. I immediately called Qin Yuanshan again. President Qin, does your bank cooperate with high-end luxury brands? He immediately replied confidently, Mr. Gu, within the Shenzhou Empire, commercial bank can almost reach any industry you can imagine. I nodded. I want to buy some luxury goods. Help contact your partners and see which places are suitable. Qin Yuanshan immediately replied, in that case, I'll arrange for one of our specialists to accompany you. He frequently works with luxury merchants and will handle everything professionally. Would that be all right? No problem. I'll wait for your message. Less than 3 minutes after hanging up, my phone rang again. Soon after, an unfamiliar number called me. Hello, is this Mr. Gu? Yes, speaking. Mr. Gu, hello, I'm Meng Xiyu, the shopping consultant arranged for you by President Qin from Commercial Bank. We met briefly during dinner last night. Hearing her name, I instantly remembered. So it's you? Meng Xiyu quickly continued. If you want to buy luxury goods, I recommend International Mixi Mall. The brands there are very comprehensive, and the overall quality is excellent. I nodded lightly. All right, let's go there. I'll drive over myself. Since I'll pass by the bank on the way, you can come with me. Hearing that, her voice immediately became slightly excited. That would trouble you too much, Mr. Gu, but I'm also honored to help you. After all, she had personally witnessed everything yesterday. From the luxury cars to the skyscrapers and billions in investments, she had stood beside Qin Yuan Shan the entire time pouring tea and helping organize documents. She had never seen a super rich person like me before, and now my appearance clearly represented an opportunity in her eyes. The only question was whether she could actually seize it. A few minutes later, I arrived downstairs at the bank. Before she even got into the car, I had already secretly observed her once. But now that she sat beside me, I could see her much more clearly. Meng Xiu was around 168 centimeters tall with an extremely eye-catching figure. With high heels, she probably reached about 172 centimeters. Her body proportions were almost perfect. At the same time, she was also secretly observing me. My clothes were still ordinary cheap brands worth only a few hundred yuan, completely inconsistent with my current status as a super rich man. Of course, in her eyes, that probably became another symbol of low-key luxury. While driving, I casually asked, "You seem very familiar with luxury goods?" She nodded gently. Yes, my work often involves cooperation with many luxury brands in Shenzhen. Plus, I personally like these things too, so I know quite a lot. Soon we arrived at International MixC Mall. After getting out of the car, the two of us walked side by side while secretly observing each other. Meng Xiu's long legs and elegant figure attracted plenty of attention along the way. Meanwhile, she quietly analyzed every detail about me. Then she smiled professionally and said, "Mr. Gu, earlier you mentioned wanting to buy men's clothing and luxury watches. In that case, I recommend brands like Hermes, Armani, and Zegna. They balance both business and casual styles and suit a young, successful man like you very well. As for watches, brands like Patek Philippe and Vacheron Constantin are excellent choices." I nodded. All right, let's take a look. Under her guidance, we entered the Zegna store. The staff immediately greeted us warmly. "Mr. Gu, welcome. Would you like me to recommend some styles for you?" I calmly replied, "Based on my body shape, prepare 4 sets, 2 business styles, and 2 casual." "Of course, Mr. Gu. Please wait a moment." In the end, I changed into a casual outfit directly inside the store. Of course, I didn't only buy Zegna. I also selected several pieces from Hermes, Dior, Armani, and other luxury brands. Altogether, the clothing alone cost around 1.5 million yuan. After changing my clothes, I naturally planned to buy a watch as well. After looking through several options, I finally chose the one I liked most, Patek Philippe's Grand Complications Series 6300G-010. Naturally, the price was equally outrageous at 3.15 million yuan. I casually swiped my card without hesitation. Beside me, Meng Xiu's eyes were full of envy. She clearly dreamed of living this kind of extravagant life herself. Watching me spend money like water made her emotions grow even more complicated. After leaving the Patek Philippe store, I checked the time. It was already past noon. I casually asked, "Are there any good restaurants nearby? I should treat you to lunch too, as thanks for your hard work." Meng Xiu quickly replied, "There's a very nice Western restaurant nearby, though it's quite expensive." I smiled slightly. "Perfect, let's go." The restaurant was indeed absurdly expensive. I casually glanced at the menu and realized even 2 steaks cost several thousand yuan. But now I was simply enjoying the experience of being rich, so naturally I didn't care about prices anymore. After all, no matter how expensive the meal was, it couldn't possibly consume hundreds of billions. As lunch gradually neared its end, Meng Xiu still hadn't successfully established a truly intimate relationship with me, and she was clearly becoming anxious inside. After all, I wasn't officially assigned to her personally. Right now, all 10 private banking assistants were desperately competing for my favor. If she missed this chance today, perhaps another woman would replace her tomorrow. Looking at me quietly eating, Meng Xiu finally seemed to make up her mind. She clearly didn't believe there was any man completely immune to temptation. Meanwhile, I was still wondering which villa I should inspect first in the afternoon, when I suddenly noticed something unusual under the table. I instinctively looked toward Meng Xiu. She lowered her eyes slightly, her beautiful face carrying obvious nervousness. I smiled faintly. "This steak is pretty expensive." Hearing that, Meng Xiu's cheeks instantly turned red. She clearly understood what I meant. Then she finally gathered her courage and softly said, "Mr. Gu, I want to stay with you." I calmly looked at her. "I don't date." She bit her lip lightly before saying in a low voice, "I can be your lover instead, and I'm still a virgin." Honestly, I was slightly surprised. I had heard countless rumors before about how chaotic industries like banking, nursing, and entertainment could be, especially regarding unspoken rules. With Meng Xiu's appearance and figure, I honestly found it hard to believe she had never experienced those things before. Perhaps noticing my disbelief, she quickly explained, "Mr. Gu, I really am. You can even take me to the hospital to verify it if you want." Hearing her say that so confidently made me believe her a little more. After all, someone wouldn't casually dare make that kind of claim otherwise. Then I looked at her curiously and asked, "Honestly, I'm more curious why someone like you has never given yourself to anyone before. You should have had countless pursuers." Meng Xiu quietly nodded. "I did date before, but I never crossed that final line. I didn't want to give myself away too casually." Then she smiled bitterly. "And yes, I've always had many pursuers, but I understood their intentions clearly. They only liked my looks and body, not me as a person. I'm not against intimacy before marriage, I'm just afraid of giving myself to the wrong person." After pausing briefly, she looked directly into my eyes and honestly admitted, "Actually, I'm a very realistic person. What I want is money and a good life. I want the freedom to buy whatever I like, travel wherever I want, and never worry about work again. Unfortunately, I don't have the ability to achieve that myself." Hearing her explanation, I finally understood her thoughts more clearly. She continued calmly, "I don't hide the fact that I'm materialistic, but I also don't deliberately harm ordinary people. For example, with some of my pursuers, if their conditions couldn't meet my standards, I never toyed with them emotionally. I told them directly it was impossible, and I never accepted their money either. Honestly, that part actually impressed me a little. If she had accepted money while emotionally manipulating others, things could have easily become messy later. But from what she said, she had at least maintained clear boundaries the entire time. From the very beginning, Meng Xiu had always rejected those men cleanly and directly. That way, even if she eventually found a wealthy man in the future, there wouldn't be any messy emotional problems left behind. Honestly, that kind of decisiveness was pretty impressive. Then she suddenly looked at me with slightly nervous eyes and softly asked, "Brother Gu, do you think I'm suitable?" Meng Xiu was clearly a very intelligent woman. She knew exactly what she wanted, but more importantly, she knew what she absolutely shouldn't do. Only women like that truly understood how to keep a man comfortable. I looked at her calmly before saying, "I'll buy you a Porsche first. I'll also arrange a house for you to stay in temporarily. As for the rest, that depends on your own ability." Hearing that, Meng Xiu's eyes instantly brightened. "Brother Gu, don't worry. I'll definitely be obedient. I'll behave well." I smiled faintly. "Then let's treat this as a trial period first. But even if things don't work out later, I'll still give you a breakup fee." Naturally, the so-called breakup fee was basically hush money. That way, she wouldn't go around later saying I played with her feelings. Meng Xiu immediately nodded obediently. "Okay, Brother Gu, I'll definitely listen to you." Then I casually said, "I'm planning to inspect some houses this afternoon. If you have time, come with me." She smiled sweetly. "Of course, I also want to see Brother Gu's new house." That lunch alone cost more than 20,000 yuan, and we had only eaten casually. Looking at the bill, Meng Xiu sighed softly and sighed. Her monthly salary was barely over 10,000 yuan, not even enough to afford a single meal here. Since I had too many properties now, I casually chose one luxury flat to stay in temporarily. Honestly, having a beautiful woman accompany me like this was something I had only fantasized about before. Back then, I was just an ordinary nobody. Yet now, this kind of life had somehow become reality. I couldn't help sighing at how unpredictable life truly was. Meanwhile, Meng Xiu also clearly understood her own position. But to her, that didn't matter much at all. Working in banking, she had already seen countless wealthy men. On the surface, they all looked successful and respectable, but privately, almost none of them were truly faithful. Even the most well-behaved rich men usually kept at least 3 women around them. In the end, environment changed people. Standing beside the huge window, Meng Xiu quietly stared at the dazzling city outside, seemingly lost in thought. I walked over and asked softly, "What are you thinking about?" She looked at the bright skyline and quietly replied, "This city is so prosperous, but ordinary people can struggle their entire lives and still never truly belong here." I smiled faintly. Shenzhen really is prosperous, but honestly, it's like a high-class prostitute. If you're poor, it looks down on you. But if you're rich, it'll let you experience every luxurious thing imaginable. Meng Xiu looked at me helplessly. The beautiful atmosphere she had built instantly disappeared because of my blunt words. Slowly, she walked over and sat beside me, leaning gently into my chest while softly wrapping her arms around my waist. Her body carried a faint, elegant fragrance that naturally stirred certain emotions inside me. I lowered my head slightly and asked, "What do you think of this house?" She quietly replied, "It's beautiful, like a dream. Someone like me could work an entire lifetime and still never afford a place like this." I calmly said, "Then stay here from now on. If you can remain by my side for 3 years, I'll give this house to you." The moment she heard that, her heartbeat instantly accelerated wildly. Just one sentence from the man in front of her could completely change her destiny forever. She would never again need to desperately struggle in this giant city just to survive. She would never again need to work for decades simply to buy an ordinary apartment. In the afternoon, the two of us rested for a while before I slowly got up and stretched. "Come on, let's go eat." Then I glanced at her meaningfully and smiled. "Maybe we should eat something nourishing. I'm worried you're too tired." Hearing that, Meng Xiu's cheeks instantly turned red again. Soon the two of us changed clothes and slowly drove out together. During dinner, Meng Xiu finally couldn't resist asking a question she had been holding back for a long time. "Brother Gu, besides me, how many other women do you have?" I casually replied, "None. Right now, it's only you." Hearing that answer, she was genuinely stunned. She had originally assumed there were already several women around me and had even started worrying about how she could compete with them. She never expected that I actually didn't have anyone else. That honestly surprised her greatly. At the same time, she suddenly felt a strange pressure in her heart. Not jealousy exactly, since the two of us had only known each other for a very short time, but still something about it affected her emotionally. Later that night, while I was in the bathroom, she secretly searched things on her phone like "How to Make Your Boyfriend Happy" and 100 Delicious Dishes Men Love. Apparently, she had bought those kinds of books before but never seriously studied them because she was always busy working. But now, she suddenly felt those things were extremely important. In her mind, she firmly believed one thing: there was no man who truly disliked soft and caring women. Those women people called green tea girls weren't necessarily bad. After all, those so-called good little sisters always cared about a man warmly, worried about whether he was cold or tired, respected his opinions in everything, and constantly made him feel valued. What man wouldn't enjoy that feeling? Even I honestly couldn't deny it. Later that night, while lying beside me, Meng Xiu suddenly hugged me tightly and softly whispered, "If you get other women in the future, can you please not abandon me? I just want to stay with you." Combined with her gentle voice, pitiful expression, and watery eyes, almost no man could resist that kind of charm. Honestly, I was slightly surprised by how rich her inner thoughts were. But after all, she had already given me her first time. As long as she didn't make major mistakes, I naturally wouldn't treat her badly. I gently touched her hair and said calmly, "As long as you stay obedient and don't make mistakes, I won't abandon you." Hearing that, she instantly smiled brightly and hugged me tighter. "Thank you, Brother Gu. Brother Gu is the best." By the time we returned to the hotel later that night, the atmosphere between us had become much more natural. Having already gained experience from before, the second round between us became far more intense than the first, and even Meng Xiu herself seemed much less nervous this time. The next morning when I woke up, she had already gone to work. My phone still contained several sweet messages she sent before leaving. Honestly, I still wasn't fully used to this new wealthy lifestyle. No work, no alarms, no pressure. I could sleep whenever I wanted and do whatever I wanted. Even now, everything still felt unreal to me, almost like a dream. Then I suddenly remembered something. Today was actually a perfect opportunity to inspect the skyscrapers I bought. After all, I had spent 30 billion yuan on those twin towers. It would be ridiculous not to even go see them properly. The towers stood magnificently beside Huangfu River, towering straight into the clouds. As I stood below them and looked upward, an overwhelming sense of ambition suddenly rose inside my chest. Slowly walking through the enormous buildings, observing the layouts and designs, I gradually began forming plans for the future in my mind. I slowly finalized the overall structure for the Twin Towers in my mind. The first 4 floors would become a massive luxury shopping center filled with high-end brands and large supermarkets. Floors 5 to 7 would include restaurants, gyms, entertainment facilities, and leisure spaces. Everything above the 8th floor would become offices for my future business empire, employee dormitories, and business reception areas. As for my own office, I planned to place it near the top floor where I could overlook the entire river scenery below. Now that the general direction was set, the next problem was finding a truly capable design and renovation company. Thinking of that, I immediately called Qin Yuanshan. "President Qin, do you know any strong interior design and renovation companies? I want to completely remodel my 2 buildings." Hearing that, Qin Yuanshan suddenly laughed awkwardly. "Mr. Gu, didn't you already invest in one yourself that day?" I froze for a second before finally remembering. Back then, I had signed so many contracts that I barely remembered half of them afterward. But after his reminder, I vaguely recalled that one of the major shareholders I invested in was actually from a design company. Quickly flipping through my contacts, I finally found the number and called. "If I remember correctly, I invested in your company, right?" The other side instantly became extremely enthusiastic. "Of course, Chairman Gu, you're currently our company's largest shareholder with 35% ownership." I nodded lightly. "Good. I bought 2 skyscrapers from Chairman Liu recently, and I want them fully redesigned and renovated." The other side immediately replied excitedly, "Chairman Gu, no problem at all. Since it's our own company handling your project, you can completely fang sin. Just tell us your ideas and we'll handle everything." I calmly said, "First arrange your best team to survey the buildings. After that, I'll explain my overall concepts and requirements." "Chairman Gu, don't worry. I'll personally arrange the best designers and engineers in the company for your project." "Good. Thanks for your hard work." After handling the renovation issue, I finally relaxed a little. I had been busy nonstop for so long that even I felt mentally exhausted. So I directly called Ling Zayan and invited him out for barbecue. The moment he answered, he immediately cursed, "Damn it, your father is still at work right now." I laughed and replied, stop pretending, get off work and come straight to the old barbecue place. I'll wait for you there. By the time I drove over, it was already past 5 in the afternoon. When I finally arrived at the barbecue shop, it was close to 7. About 10 minutes later, Ling Zayan slowly rode over on his little electric scooter. The moment he sat down, he casually tossed me a cigarette. Not bad. You really became different after getting rich. Even arranging barbecue now feels luxurious. I smiled and replied, rich isn't really the right word. I just have a little money now. Then I continued casually, you already cleared your debts, right? But there are still plenty of places in life where money disappears quickly. If you save properly, buy a house and a car slowly, your life will gradually improve. Ling Zayan sighed helplessly. If I had money, I'd definitely buy a house and car too. But if your money isn't enough, then save it properly and stop spending recklessly. Making money nowadays is hard. I casually waved my hand. Relax. I sold more than enough Bitcoin. I already bought plenty of houses and cars and still have savings left. Hearing that, he nearly choked. Holy crap. How much Bitcoin did you buy back then? I laughed. Guess. He sighed emotionally. Seriously though, your life completely turned around overnight. House, car, money. Now all you need is a wife and your life will basically be perfect. Hearing that, I immediately snorted. Marriage? Screw marriage. Ling Zayan looked confused. What's wrong? You seriously don't plan to get married? I casually took a sip of beer and replied, honestly, there's a high chance I'll never marry in this lifetime. What happened? Did some toxic woman hurt you? I shook my head. No, I just think marriage nowadays is too difficult. Just look at society. Then I continued calmly. Besides, why do I need marriage? I have money now. If I want companionship, I can just find a few lovers or keep one long-term partner. No marriage means no complicated responsibilities, no endless stress. Isn't that much simpler? Ling Zayan burst out laughing. Damn, when the cost of marriage becomes far higher than keeping a girlfriend and the emotional returns are even lower, who the hell still wants marriage? Then he suddenly looked at me suspiciously. Wait, don't tell me you've already started? I casually nodded. Yeah, there's one. Damn, you move fast. The relationship between the two of us was close enough that there were almost no secrets between us anymore, except for the system itself. Then he suddenly asked, so what are you planning to do now? You already quit your job, right? Yeah. Then what? You seriously never plan to work again? I laughed lightly. Whether I work or not doesn't matter anymore. Even if I spent recklessly for the rest of my life, I still couldn't finish all my money. Ling Zayan sighed dramatically. I'm jealous. Meanwhile, I still have to work every day like a dog. I smiled and said, want me to sponsor you a little? But he immediately shook his head. Nah, I'd rather work slowly myself. I'm not dating anyway, so I'm not in a rush. If one day I really can't survive anymore, then I'll ask you for help. I immediately nodded seriously. As long as you ask, I'll definitely help. Then he suddenly remembered something. Oh, right. From the 220,000 yuan you gave me, I still have around 30 or 40,000 left. I'll transfer it back to you. I laughed. Keep it. Buy yourself some things. He grinned instantly. Then I won't act polite. I rolled my eyes. With our relationship, what's the point of being polite? After finishing the barbecue, we stood beside the road chatting for a while longer. Ling Zayan looked at my Ferrari with envy all over his face. Damn, you're already driving a Ferrari now. I casually smiled. Not bad, right? Then I asked, want me to give you a ride? But he immediately waved his hand. Forget it. My little scooter suits me fine. Soon after, a taxi arrived for him and he finally left. Not long afterward, the nightlife consultant I contacted earlier also arrived. Hello, Mr. Gu. Where would you like to go tonight? I looked out toward the brightly lit city and smiled slightly. Take me to XXO Bar. It had been years since I last stepped into a nightclub. Since I was rich now, maybe it was finally time to experience that luxurious nightlife everyone always talked about. As one of Shenzhen's top-tier clubs, XXO's entrance was naturally filled with expensive luxury cars. But even among them, my Ferrari worth over 6 million yuan still attracted countless stares the moment it appeared. Before I even fully stopped the car, several staff members had already rushed over enthusiastically. Good evening, sir. Welcome. One young promoter personally guided me inside while introducing the club along the way. Sir, would you like Area A or Area B? I casually replied, give me the best section with the best view. Of course, sir. Please follow me. Soon I arrived at an enormous VIP booth capable of seating over 10 people comfortably. From here, I had a perfect direct view of the stage in the center. I nodded slightly. Not bad. The promoter smiled respectfully. Sir, what would you like to drink? I casually flipped through the menu twice before pointing directly. Bring one set of Divine Dragon package. Also bring Ace of Spades, Hennessy, Martell, and Blue Moon too. Nearly everything I ordered belonged to the most expensive section of the menu, with individual bottles costing anywhere from several thousand to tens of thousands of yuan. After that, I casually ordered several more ordinary bottles as well, and the total quickly climbed even higher. Even the promoter beside me was completely stunned. He carefully confirmed again, Sir, You really want the full Divine Dragon package? I casually nodded, and with one swipe of my card, another 500,000 yuan disappeared instantly. Even in Shenzhen, the financial center of the empire, spending 500,000 yuan in a nightclub in one night still placed someone among the absolute top customers. People like me weren't non-existent, but they were definitely extremely rare. The promoter's attitude instantly became even more respectful. Then he carefully asked, "Sir, are you alone tonight?" I casually leaned back on the sofa and replied, "Alone is fine, but I only want high quality. Don't bring me random girls." He immediately nodded seriously. "Don't worry, sir. I absolutely won't let ordinary girls disturb you." Then he instantly took out his phone and sent a message into a private group. X98 top-level rich boss, 500,000 yuan minimum spending tonight. Only high-quality girls wanted. Come immediately. Then he tagged everyone in the group before adding another sentence. Girls using heavily edited photos. Don't come and embarrass yourselves. Less than a minute later, his phone began vibrating non-stop. Countless girls were sending photos rapidly. The promoter immediately handed the phone over to me respectfully. "Sir, take a look. Anyone you like, I'll call over immediately." Out of curiosity, I glanced through the group. It was clearly a high-end nightlife group with over 500 members. Honestly though, I didn't care about the group itself. What interested me were the photos currently flooding in. I had to admit, Shenzhen really did have a terrifying number of beautiful women. Even without heavy filters, there were still countless genuine beauties. Pure 18-year-old university girls, cold, mature women around 25, charming older women in their 30s. Every type imaginable existed here. In the end, I casually selected 4 girls with completely different styles. Some looked innocent, some elegant, some seductive. Their ages were all around 20 to 25. The promoter immediately messaged the 4 of them. Soon my alcohol finally arrived as well. The enormous luxurious display instantly drew attention from almost the entire nightclub. People nearby kept whispering among themselves, "Holy crap, can one person really order this much? How much money is that? He's alone too. Do we have a chance?" Countless girls nearby kept glancing toward my table, and many even tried walking over, hoping to sit beside me. Unfortunately, most of them were only average looking at best, so naturally I wasn't interested. In an environment filled with this kind of luxury and temptation, it was incredibly easy for people to lose themselves. Before long, the first girl finally arrived. "Hello, brother. I'm Choo Choo." I casually looked up at her. She had a standard pretty face with long hair and bangs, looking extremely youthful and energetic. She wore a simple white t-shirt with a short black skirt that exposed a pair of smooth, fair legs, along with little white sneakers. Honestly, she perfectly matched the innocent young girl style. Of course, I understood very clearly that girls who spent time in nightlife circles weren't truly innocent. They simply knew how to transform themselves into whatever style customers preferred. If necessary, they could probably switch between innocent, seductive, cold, elegant, or obedient personalities within minutes. Women were naturally adaptable creatures. Soon the second girl arrived. She wore gold-rimmed glasses and carried a cold, mature aura that instantly made people curious about her. The third girl followed shortly after, wearing a soft blue dress with an elegant, gentle temperament. The last girl was completely different from the others. She wore a semi-transparent black lace dress paired with glossy black stockings, carrying a dangerously seductive aura the moment she walked over. One by one, they introduced themselves. "Brother, I'm Yuri. Hello, handsome boss. I'm Nini. Just call me Rose tonight." I lazily waved my hand toward the seats around me. "Sit down. Drink whatever you want tonight. I'm paying." The 4 girls' eyes instantly lit up with excitement. One of them smiled sweetly and said, "Boss, drinking alone is too boring. Let me accompany you." Soon the sound of clinking glasses filled the booth. Watching the girls enthusiastically trying to please me, I casually turned toward the promoter beside us and said, "Bring another ordering tablet. Let them order whatever they want. Don't worry about the price." "Understood, sir." The girls' expressions instantly became even happier. "Thank you, brother." I casually smiled. "No need to thank me." Then I pointed toward the stage and said, "Reward every dancer and DJ on stage with 10,000 yuan each. Also, tonight, everyone's spending in this entire area is on me." The promoter nearly froze from shock before immediately shouting excitedly, "Attention, everyone! Tonight's full spending in this section has been covered by Boss Goo." The entire club instantly exploded into cheers. Meanwhile, the 4 women beside me looked at me with burning eyes, almost like they wanted to melt directly into my arms. Then I casually smiled and added another sentence. "Whichever one of you performs best tonight, I'll gift her a Maserati tomorrow." The atmosphere instantly changed completely. The 4 women's breathing became noticeably heavier as they secretly sized each other up like rivals. By around 2 in the morning, I finally stood up while slightly drunk. "Let's go. Change locations." Outside the nightclub, the valet had already parked my Ferrari in the most eye-catching position possible. I casually tossed the car keys toward Rose. "Can you drive?" She quickly caught them excitedly. "Yes, boss." Then I pointed toward the nearby Lamborghini Aventador parked beside it. The other three can take that one. Under the dazzling city nightlights, the engines of the two top-tier supercars roared like wild beasts as they sped along the riverside roads beside Huangpu River. And at that moment, I clearly understood one thing: my truly extravagant life had only just begun.